Forget about their challenges over the last few years. The last few months have really thrown Covid cannonballs at business leaders, smashing down their previous working walls of the office with its hierarchy, control, and culture. So what lessons have leaders learned about the new working environment of their people? Or are they just starting to realize that this word normallessness is what they will have to manage in the future? This is a question I suggest that's causing some sleepless nights for many leaders around the world. So I wanted to get some straight talking comment and perhaps some advice for you as a leader. So who better to revisit than the world's leading independent assessor of employee workplace experience? Let's discuss it all with Leesman Deputy CEO, Allison English. Nice to see you again, Allison.
Hi, Malcolm. It's great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Allison, you're constantly supporting business leaders, especially with their decisions on workforce environments. What personal challenges are leaders telling you about?
A lot of what I'm hearing actually relates to the fact that this hasn't been done before. So there's no model to follow. You can't talk to other people and understand what they've done in the past and what's worked for them. This is new for all of us, and all of us are going through it together. And what works for one organization or one leader or one team even isn't necessarily going to work for a different one. So it's the fact, the newness really is the real difference here.
So we're almost making it up as we're going along.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a big decision time with so many other elements to consider, such as Brexit, climate change, diversity, customers and supply chains, vulnerability. So are leaders putting workforces to the top or the bottom of their to-do pile? And what type of leader is managing to juggle all the balls?
I think it's got to be, it'll change. I mean, employees have to come first and foremost in organizations, but leaders have to recognize the differences and understand how interconnected all of those different topics are. So climate change, diversity, all of these things ultimately impact employees. So it's really important to be juggling all of them. So at certain times, certain elements are going to be more important. They're going to come, I guess, they'll hit you in the face. They'll be at the top of the pile. But all of those have to be kind of top of mind for leaders, I think, in order to be effective and take everything into consideration.
Now, at Leesman, you recently conducted a qualitative survey or study into employee work from home experience. So you've got some superb recent knowledge. I hear from other surveys, though, that many are now saying, from a safety point of view, that they want to keep working from home. What should leaders be doing to reassure such workers that their workplace is where they should be and why it's safe to be there?
Again, here, I think it's going to depend on the leader and the organization. It's not just about the employee being in the office and does the office have hand sanitizer and is it cleaned enough and can you maintain, the appropriate physical distancing. They've got to factor in how are employees getting to and from the office. If there's public transportation involved, people may not feel comfortable taking that. So it's not just about that time in the office. It's what does the whole day look like? And I think leaders really have to pay attention to how employees are feeling. What is the sense check? What is the pulse there? So I don't think there's a global policy or an organizational policy that's going to make sense to say everybody has to come into the office starting X week. I think that's not empathetic enough. That's not sensitive enough. And that's not putting employees and really the business at the forefront of a leader's mind. So understanding that nuance and what makes sense for that, again, for the organization, for the employees, for the team, makes the most sense for leaders.
Okay. If I asked you to give me 3 top workforce opinion points that Leesman learned from its in-depth study, what would they be and how forceful were those 3 points made by those surveyed?
It's a really good question. We've seen a lot of interesting data coming out of the responses that we've got so far in the survey. Some of the key highlights are employees are suffering from connectivity to the organization and to colleagues. So informal social interactions, some of those kind of chance conversations you might have, we used to call it water cooler talk. Now it might be by the coffee machine. That all goes away when everyone that you used to run into in the office, they're all sitting at home. And again, most people aren't calling their colleagues when they're making a coffee just to chit chat. It's a very different experience now. So definitely those connection points to people and that cultural bit of the organization is lacking. Another thing we're seeing is work-life balance and the challenge around employees being home now all the time. And a lot of people, their home space and their workspace are the same space. They don't have a separate place to go, a different office or a different room even. So, people who are sometimes working on the sofa, sometimes working, at a kitchen table, we're finding they have the lowest experience compared to people who have kind of a dedicated space to go. So it's the main areas, like I talked about, the connection and work-life balance, all that has to do with kind of how employees are coping in mental health. Things that are working, a lot of people are feeling like they can work more productively. Tech is working great. And those are some of the areas I think people were more concerned with at first. So that the human aspect and the human elements are what people are really struggling with in the data that we're seeing.
Very interesting. Do you think that all the impact, especially COVID, will mean that business continuity plans will have to be changed? And if so, what questions should leaders be asking so that they produce a future resilient plan?
Absolutely. I think business continuity plans have to change. What I just touched on before was the tech aspect and how well that's been working. You and I are connecting virtually now. Zoom has been great, or any video conferencing platform. Many of those, again, have supported people really well in being able to do some of the kind of standard business things, planned meetings, those types of activities. But again, what people are going to, and leaders and organizations are going to have to plan for in the longer term is the more human part of work that's missing when people are dispersed. We don't know how long this will last. We don't know, if everyone starts going back to offices and there's another lockdown, another shutdown. I mean, the cycle could go on like this for months, could go on for years. We just don't know. So that absolutely has to be part of business continuity, taking care of more than just making sure employees can do their jobs. Are they healthy, happy people?
I think it needs a new type of continuity plan. In the past, you could go through a template. Now you need a crystal ball. So how at Leesman do you go about advising leaders on ensuring that they are workforce attractive for the future? Having the right considerations in place.
Yeah, well, that's, I think, one key thing. We don't provide advice. We're not a consultancy where the data that we give really helps organizations kind of make those decisions. So I guess that what we try and do is provide them with the data into their organizations, comparing that to other organizations in the form of a benchmark, and showing them kind of what the data tells them about their organization, and then having conversations with them, workshops and stuff to tease out of them what the right direction and how they should be steering the ship. So it's data driven for sure from our standpoint, without concretely consulting and giving advice.
Allison English from Leesman Index, thank you very much for that deeper dive. Much appreciated.
You're very welcome. Thanks, Malcolm.